like to talk about a question that I heard on YouTube, and I think it's a question that should be answered. Powerful. Done by a former Catholic, now an atheist. And he asked the question, if there is a God, which obviously he doesn't believe there is, and if there is a heaven and a hell, which obviously he doesn't believe there is, then how can someone be joyful in heaven if their loved ones are in hell? Wow, what a powerful question. And I'd like to answer it, but I'm going to answer it in two parts. The first part I want to talk about is about God's mercy. And the second part I'm going to talk about those who reject God's mercy. So let's look at the first part. One of the things I want to bring up in light of that question is it's something I see on YouTube and it's something I see from others. And it's what I would consider an American concept of hell. Now, first of all, we all know that the concept of hell is ancient. It even goes into other religions. It's a very old concept. And Jesus himself brings it up. But I think we have an American concept of hell as well. And that's what I keep seeing on YouTube. And personally, I believe the American concept of hell comes from a place that I experienced to be as pure hell, school. In the United States, we have that whole life in school, and here's how it works. We all know what it's like. You go to school every day, you try to do your best all through the year, you try to do what needs to be done, but you know what? Maybe you didn't get enough points in here, or maybe this didn't work, and either you flunk out or you're not allowed to graduate. I've actually dealt with students who are really distraught. They're like, a half a point from being able to have enough points to graduate, or they'll have to go to summer school or kept back. And the teacher won't give any leeway. No, this is what the point system says. This is the way it is, and I'm not going to give the extra half a point that this person can graduate. Everything has to be just so. And that whole concept of being right on the edge with people's lives and working on this very strict, determined level that really is more numerical than anything else leads us to ask the question, is that also translated into our concept of hell? Because if we look at our concept of hell, it's almost the exact same thing. That we live our life, and maybe when we stand before God, just like standing before the teacher, maybe we're going to find we don't have enough points to get into heaven, and God is going to cast us into hell. And if you look at the people who reflect on hell on YouTube, you will see, even if they don't believe they say this, or even if they don't say it directly, you're going to see that concept in the background. And that whole thing is, why do I want to believe in a God who can cast me into hell if all I have to do is stop believing in God and hell and I never have to worry about it? What is the response there? Well, the reason why I also say that's an American concept of hell is because it's not a Christian understanding. Although there are Christians that will use it. Well, what can we say? But it's not a Christian. It's not from Christ. I mean, Christ himself made this whole concept very simple. Mercy is more important than anything else. It is mercy I desire and not sacrifice. As a matter of fact, to the people who would be going around saying, you're going to hell and you're going to hell, he called them evil and called them sinners, and he turned around and said to them, the prostitutes and the tax collectors are getting into heaven before you. A tax collector was considered a betrayer. So when we see that whole concept and we see people turn around and say, well, if I stand before the Lord, he could cast me into hell, we have to understand that maybe the concept we're listening to is in fact not Christianity in the first place. Jesus did everything he could to lead everyone into heaven, and still does. And so we see that Jesus dies on the cross. He resurrects 3 days later, but he gave everything he had on the cross that we may have eternal life. He begged that this could be taken from him so he wouldn't have to die on the cross, only to be told, no, this is the only way for people to experience salvation. So when we look at that, we understand that Jesus wants every option available for someone to get into heaven. Now let's look at that in a real scenario. I had come home from my day off, and there were two gentlemen standing at the door. Now I actually work mostly in Spanish. I'm now working Spanish and English, but I work a lot in Spanish. So there's two gentlemen standing at the door. And they're dressed not professionally, so to speak, they're dressed casually, but you can tell this is a very serious conversation. Padre, por favor, venga con nosotros. Father, please come with us. Get into their car, And we went 3 towns or 3 cities away to the city of Lynn, Massachusetts, to a hospital there. They explained to me on the way what had happened. Their cousin, 23-year-old, had overdosed on cocaine. He was sitting in the hospital. Most likely he was brain dead, and they didn't expect him to survive the night. They wanted me to go there to give what is known as the last rites. And the last rites is a sacrament we have in the Catholic Church for people who are dying. And basically what it is it's bringing Christ present, His mercy present, to whomever requests it. And we give them the sacrament. We forgive them of their sins. He's surrounded by his family, as I discovered as I walked in the room. And they're all praying for him. And they're all praying that he will experience eternal life because they know his life is over. Now, on the surface, we may turn around and say, yes, but he died in the engagement of sin, therefore his eternal life will be in hell. But that's not our belief as Catholics. We believe in the mercy of God, and so the family comes together praying for him, praying that the Lord, who obviously is not going to heal him because he's not being healed, praying that the Lord will lead him into eternal life. And that's the hope and the mercy we have as Catholics. And they've done something else. Now, this is something that other Christian denominations shiver when I show this, but I'm not of the other Christian denominations. I'm Catholic. They put what is known as a scapular on him, and this is a scapular. Now, in the Catholic faith, we believe this comes to us from tradition, comes to us from Mary, the Mother of God, and it comes with a promise that if you're wearing it and assumedly living a Catholic life, when you die, you will go to heaven. They had this scapular. They put it on. Someone grabbed it from his family, put it on him. Now, understand the scenario. Now, some people would say, well, he died committing a sin, but we're in the Catholic concept here. And you can look at this whole family praying for him. And you know what? That's the exact scenario of mercy that Jesus is talking about. Now, granted, people may reject that mercy. That's their choice. But others are open to it regardless of who we are. And that's what faith is all about. Now, it's kind of an interesting thing because when I first said about school, because school can be very black and white, and so you spend this whole time worrying about if you have enough points and whether you're going to pass. Because when you take the black and white concept, this is the way it works, and you take the way God works, let's do anything we can. Let's work these numbers however we can, get this person into heaven. We see God cheats. And so that question, in light of God's mercy, we see, part one, when we see that question, we say, yes, the person is brought into eternal life who is open to God's mercy, who receives God's mercy, and asks for God's mercy. And at the same time, the merciful experience God's mercy as well. That's part one. In part two, we want to talk about those who reject God's mercy. God bless you.